snozcumbers. But if you don't eat people, like all the others, Sophie said, then what do you live on? That is such a tricky problem around here, the BFG answered. In this slosh-funkin' giant country, happy eats like pineapples and pigwinkles is simply not growing. Nothing is growing except for one extremely icky-picky, pooey vegetable. It is called the snozcumber. The snozcumber, cried Sophie. There's no such thing. The BFG looked at Sophie and smiled, showing about 20 of his square white teeth. Yesterday, he said, we was not believing in giants, was we? Today, we's not believing in snozcumbers. Just because we happen not to have actually seen something with our own two little winkles, we think it is not existing. What about for instance, the great squizzly Scotch hopper? I beg your pardon, Sophie said. And the humple crimp? What's that? Sophie said. And the rat rascal? The what? Sophie said. And the crump squaddle? Are they animals? Sophie asked. They is common animals, said the BFG, contemplating. I is not a very well-known giant myself, but it seems to me that you is an absolutely know-nothing human being. Your brain is full of rotten wool. You mean gotten wool, Sophie laughed. What I mean and what I say is two different things, the BFG announced. I will now show you a snozcumber. The BFG flung open a massive cupboard and took out the weirdest looking thing Sophie had ever seen. It was about half as long again as an ordinary man, but was much thicker. It was as thick round its girth as a perambolita. It was black with white stripes along its length, and it was covered all over with coarse knobbles. Here is the repulsant snozcumber, cried the BFG, waving it about. I squoggle it, I despise it, I desponge it. But because I is refusing to gobble up human beings like the other giants, I spend most of my life guzzling up icky pooey snozcumbers instead. If I don't, I'll be nothing but skin and groans. You mean skin and bones, Sophie said. I know it's bones, the BFG said, but please understand that I cannot be helping if I sometimes disdain things a little squiggly. I was trying my very best all the time. The big friendly giant looked suddenly so forlorn that Sophie got quite upset. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't mean to be rude. There never was any schools teaching me talking in giant country, the BFG said sadly. But couldn't your mother have taught you? Sophie asked. My mother? Cried the BFG. Giants don't have mothers. Surely you is knowing that. I did not know that, Sophie said. Who ever heard of a woman giant? Laughed the BFG, waving the snozcumber around his head like a lasso. There was never a woman giant, and there never will be one. Giants is always men. Sophie felt herself getting a little muddled. In that case, she said, how were you born? Giants isn't born, the BFG continued to laugh. Giants appears, and that's all there is to it. They simply appears, the same way as the sun and the stars. When did you appear? Sophie asked. Now, how on earth could I be knowing a thing like that? Said the BFG. I was so long ago I couldn't count. You mean you don't even know how old you are? No giant is knowing that, the BFG said. All I is knowing about myself is that I is very old, very, very old and crumply, perhaps as old as the earth. But what happens when a giant dies? Sophie asked. Giants is never dying, the BFG answered. Sometimes, and quite suddenly, a giant is disappearing, and nobody's ever known where he goes to, but mostly us giants are simply going on and on like Whiffy's time twiddlers. The BFG was still holding the awesome snozcumber in his right hand, and now he put one hand into his mouth and bit off a huge hunk of it. He started crunching it up, and the noise he made was like crunching of lumps of ice. It's filthy, he spluttered, speaking with his mouth full and spraying large bits of snozcumber like bullets in Sophie's direction. Sophie hopped around on the tabletop, ducking out of the way. It's disgusting, the BFG gurgled. It's sickable, it's rotsome, it's maggots-wise. Try it yourself. Ooh. No, thank you, Sophie said, backing away. It's all you're going to be guzzling around here from now on, so you might as well get used to it, said the BFG. Go on, you snipsy little winkle, have a go. Sophie took a little nibble. She spluttered. Oh, no, gosh, help. She spat it out quickly. It tastes of frog skins and rotten fish. Worse than that, cried the BFG, roaring with laughter. To me, it's tasting of cloches and slime wanglers. Do we really have to eat it? Sophie said. Well, you do, unless you're wanting to come so thin and you'll be disappearing into a thick ear. Into thin air, Sophie said. A thick ear is something very different. Once again, that sad look came onto the BFG's eyes. Words, he said, is all such a twinkling problem to me all my life, so you must simply try to be patient and stop scribbling. As I'm always telling you before, I know exactly what words I'm wanting to say, but somehow or other they's getting quite scribbled around. That happens to everyone, Sophie said. Not like it happens to me, the BFG said. I speak in the most terrible Wiglish. I think you speak beautifully, Sophie said. Not like it happens to me. I is speaking the most terrible Wiglish. It's simply beautiful, Sophie repeated. You really think that? You really do? Well, that is the nicest present anybody's ever given me in my whole life, cried the BFG. Are you sure you're not twiddling my leg? Of course not, Sophie said. I just love the way you talk. How wondercrump, cried the BFG, still beaming. How whoopsie splunkles! How absolutely squeathling! I is all of a stutter. Listen, Sophie said, we don't have to eat snozzcumbers. In the fields around our village there are all sorts of lovely vegetables like cauliflowers and carrots. Why don't you get some of those next time you go visiting? The BFG raised his head proudly in the air. I is a very honourable giant, he said. I would rather be chewing up rotten snozzcumbers than snitching things from other people. You stole me, Sophie said. I did not steal you very much, said the BFG. After all, you was only a tiny little girl.